Hey everyone, Nigel and Luke here, and welcome to Crime Zone.
Authorities in Warren County, Pennsylvania say that they're on the hunt for a fugitive this week after he managed to escape from the local county jail following a recent arrest. According to reports, 34-year-old Michael Burham was last seen on the night of July 6th, shortly before he broke out of the Warren County jail. He was allegedly able to escape the facility by climbing on a piece of exercise equipment and then head out a metal-gated roof before getting down to the ground by descending a makeshift rope constructed from bedsheets. After fleeing the jail, authorities say they believe Burham headed into the Allegheny National Forest, which is located nearby. They describe the 34-year-old as a self-taught survivalist with military experience and say that he could be prepared to spend an extended period of time in the woods. Searches have so far revealed stockpiles of supplies and campsites that authorities say Burham could have used, though it is not confirmed. Police say it is possible that the 34-year-old is receiving help and that he has family members located in neighboring states, and that based on his past behavior, it's possible he has obtained a firearm or some other sort of weapon by this point. According to reports, this is not the first time Burham has been the subject of a manhunt. After being named a suspect in the murder of a New York woman named Kayla Hodgkin earlier this year, he allegedly went on an interstate crime spree, one which apparently included the kidnapping of an elderly couple at gunpoint. He was arrested on May 24th and was being held on charges including kidnapping, burglary, and arson prior to this week's escape. Police have described Burham as extremely dangerous and are asking all residents in the area to stay vigilant as well as secure their homes, cars, and businesses. Anyone with information concerning the 34-year-old's whereabouts is urged to contact the Pennsylvania State Police.
Representatives from Maryland's Charles County Sheriff's Office say that a 20-year-old man is facing murder charges this week after he allegedly killed an elderly woman with a piece of construction equipment during a terrifying attack. According to reports, the incident began at around 12:40 a.m. on July 2nd, when authorities say that the suspect, later identified as 20-year-old Bryce Caleb Timothy Brown, broke into a Lowe's home improvement store in the community of Waldorf. After stealing a forklift inside, Brown allegedly drove it off the property, escaping by ramming the piece of equipment through the business's rear gates. Brown reportedly continued on for about half a mile until he arrived at the parking lot of a nearby Home Depot store. It was here, police say, that things escalated in the most unnecessary and horrifying way imaginable. While still in the parking lot, Brown allegedly used the stolen forklift to ram a vehicle belonging to 73-year-old Gloristine Pinkney. The elderly woman was asleep inside her car at the time and awoke to find herself in the middle of the nightmarish attack. She got out of the vehicle just in time to avoid being injured in the ramming, though terrifyingly, when she attempted to run, Brown apparently changed course and focused the attack on her instead. He followed her, ran her over with the forklift, then allegedly fled the scene in her car. Sadly, by the time police arrived at the scene, Gloristine was dead. Brown was arrested later that same day, with the victim's car being recovered near his residence. He is now facing numerous charges, including first-degree murder, second-degree murder, assault, theft, and other related offenses. At the time of this recording, no explanation has been released behind the heinous crime.
Authorities in Atlanta, Georgia say that a 31-year-old woman is facing charges this week after she allegedly shot her own son multiple times, a senseless crime that was apparently motivated by a fight over a video game console. According to reports, the incident began just after 10:20 p.m. on June 29th when police were called to a residence on the 1000 block of Spark Street. Officers arrived to find a 17-year-old boy who was suffering from multiple gunshot wounds, and the teen was quickly rushed to nearby Grady Memorial Hospital. At the same time, police turned their attention to the alleged shooter, the teen's own mother, 31-year-old Jaquana Butler. Following an investigation, they learned that prior to the shooting, Butler and the teenage victim had gotten into an argument over a video game console. The exact nature of the argument is unclear, however, it apparently escalated to the point that Butler retrieved a handgun and shot her son multiple times. The 31-year-old was arrested at the scene and is now facing charges including aggravated assault, reckless conduct, and cruelty to children. Apparently, this is far from her first rodeo, so to speak, as police stated Butler has been arrested on numerous charges over the last decade or so, including aggravated battery, aggravated assault with a weapon, and armed robbery.
Authorities in Lansing, Michigan released a crushing update in the case of a kidnapped 2-year-old girl this week, announcing that they had heartbreakingly recovered her body about an hour and a half's drive from where she was taken. The case began on July 2nd when 2-year-old Winter Cole Smith was abducted from her mother's house during a violent altercation between her and her ex-boyfriend, 26-year-old Rashad Trice. According to reports, Trice attacked Winter's mother during an argument about money, stabbing and assaulting her. During the struggle, he was stabbed in the leg as well, after which he allegedly took Winter from the residence and fled the scene in her mother's car. The following morning, Trice was located roughly 90 miles away in the Detroit suburb of St. Clair Shores. He was captured following a chase with police, during which he crashed the stolen vehicle. Disturbingly, though, there were no signs of Winter anywhere, triggering an Amber Alert. The search for the missing 2-year-old came to a tragic end on July 5th when police announced that they had sadly recovered Winter's body in a Detroit alleyway between Olympia Street and Edgewood Avenue near the Coleman A. Young International Airport. Authorities say that they now believe the toddler was strangled to death by Trice with a cell phone charging cable, part of which was recovered from his vehicle at the time of his arrest. The 26-year-old is now facing multiple charges, including assault with intent to murder, first-degree home invasion, unlawful imprisonment, aggravated domestic violence, unlawful driving away of an automobile, and felonious assault. Those charges are expected to be updated in light of the discovery of Winter's body, after which sources state Trice will likely face the death penalty if convicted.
Authorities in Spalding County, Georgia say that 3 teenagers are facing murder charges this week after they shot and killed a young man in the street in what has been described as an egging incident gone wrong. According to reports, the incident began sometime on July 3rd when police received a call about a shooting on Dobbins Mill Road in the city of Griffin. They arrived to find a young man suffering from multiple gunshot wounds who was lying in the road outside of one of the homes there. He was later identified as 22-year-old Jonathan Tyler Gilbert via a fingerprint scan and was sadly pronounced dead at the scene. Following the shooting, police announced that they had arrested 3 people in connection with the incident, identifying them as 18-year-old Sidney Mon, 18-year-old Jeremy Munson, and 19-year-old Mackenzie Davenport. They now allege that Tyler was murdered during a prank that turned deadly. According to investigators, on the day of the incident, the 3 suspects went to a home where Tyler was staying and began egging the place. When Tyler came out to confront them, Mon allegedly shot him multiple times despite the fact that Tyler was unarmed. So far, authorities have not specified what drove the initial planning behind the so-called prank, instead simply saying that it was related to an ongoing lovers' quarrel. Tyler's family, meanwhile, say that he was simply trying to defend the property at the time of his death. They also stated that he had recently moved to Texas and was only in Georgia to try to settle a ticket he couldn't pay online. He was staying at a friend's place and was reportedly trying to turn his life around. At the time of this recording, the 3 suspects have all been charged with malice murder, battery, and criminal trespass. Mon and Munson were additionally charged with aggravated assault and possession of a firearm during the commission of a crime. They remain in custody.
Authorities in Atlanta, Georgia say that an armed robber walked away pretty much empty-handed this week after he attempted to hold up a local business but was snubbed by his would-be victims. According to reports, the incident took place on the afternoon of July 3rd at the Nail First Nail Salon on Piedmont Road. Surveillance footage captured of the bizarre incident shows as the unidentified suspect walks in just after 2:35 p.m., holding what appears to be a handgun concealed in a bag strapped around his shoulder. He proceeds to point the weapon in the direction of several people before starting to yell at everyone inside to give him all of their money. This is the point at which you would normally expect the terrified victims to show some kind of a reaction to what was going on, to comply with the suspect's demands, maybe try and reason with him, or even attempt to run for their lives. However, that's not what happened in this case. No, instead, pretty much everyone just ignored the suspect. And here's the thing, it actually seems to have worked. In the footage, the suspect can be seen repeating his demands for cash several times, as everyone just sort of sits there and looks at him. The business's owner even picks up a phone call during the incident, casually walking away while refusing to acknowledge the robber. While the suspect did snatch a woman's phone when she got up and tried to walk out the door, she doesn't appear all that bothered. Instead, she stands outside for a few moments before coming back inside. By that time, the suspect had apparently realized that his plan was a failure, and he walks out of the nail salon having taken $0 in cash. In interviews after the strange crime, witnesses admitted that they were frightened, though did their best to follow the lead of the salon's owner, who tried to appear relaxed. Police did, however, caution the public afterwards, saying in general it's best to comply with demands in these situations, since you never know what a given suspect is capable of. At the time of this recording, authorities say that they are still seeking to identify the culprit behind this week's incident. Anyone with information is encouraged to reach out to the Atlanta police or Crime Stoppers.
Authorities in Shreveport, Louisiana say that they're investigating the aftermath of a terrifying tragedy this week after 4 people were killed and several others were wounded during a shooting at the 4th of July party. The incident unfolded during an annual community block party in the city's Martin Luther King Drive area. It was about 11:40 p.m. and roughly 200 friends, family members, and neighbors were in the midst of enjoying the holiday festivities when the situation took a horrifying turn. According to witnesses, the violence erupted near the intersection of Jones-Mabry Road and Pearl Street when a group of young men showed up to the block party who had not been invited. They reportedly argued with another group of men in attendance, at which point a fight started and multiple people began firing into the crowd, forcing partygoers to scramble for their lives. While emergency responders were immediately called to the scene, they apparently had difficulty accessing the area due to the amount of vehicles that were parked in the street due to the celebration. By the time authorities arrived, 2 people were pronounced dead at the scene. Another person succumbed to their injuries in a local hospital a short time later, while the 4th deceased victim was found several hours afterwards in an area of tall grass and dense vegetation near the scene. The victims have since been identified as 22-year-old Murad Aziz, 19-year-old Jariq Dorsey, 24-year-old Damare Williams, and 17-year-old Sincere Brown. At least 7 other people were also wounded during the attack, with one said to be in critical condition. At the time of this recording, police say that they are investigating the situation, but so far have not identified any suspects. They are asking for those who witnessed the shooting to come forward with any information they may have.
Representatives from the Philadelphia Police Department say that they are investigating the aftermath of a terrifying tragedy this week following a shooting that claimed the lives of 5 people. According to reports, the incident took place on the evening of July 3rd in Philadelphia's Kings Essing neighborhood. It began at around 8:30 p.m. when the alleged gunman, later identified as 40-year-old Kim Brady Carricker, opened fire near 56th Street and Chester Avenue. Armed with a rifle and wearing a ski mask and bulletproof vest, he proceeded to walk through the area, shooting indiscriminately at pedestrians, vehicles, and homes. The horrifying attack continued until police caught up with Carricker roughly a block away in the rear alleyway at an address on South Fraser Street. By this time, he had allegedly fired at least 50 rounds, killing 5 people and wounding several others. To the surprise of responding officers, the 40-year-old apparently made no attempt to resist arrest. Instead, he reportedly congratulated police on a job well done, later chillingly claiming that he was only trying to help them curb gun violence in the city, and saying, quote, "All these guys are out there killing people." The deceased victims of the shooting have since been identified as 15-year-old DeJuan Brown, 22-year-old Lasheed Merritt, 29-year-old Demir Stanton, 31-year-old Joseph Wama Jr., and 59-year-old Ralph Morales. Several others were reportedly injured during the harrowing attack, among them a 33-year-old woman and her 2-year-old twins, as well as 2 boys under the age of 14. As you know, we very much like to stay out of any sort of political commentary on this channel, But in this case, we think we'd be doing you all a disservice if we didn't point out that it appears both sides of the aisle, so to speak, have tried to erroneously politicize this tragedy to their advantage. On the right, much has been made of the fact that there are pictures of Carricker that appear to show him dressed in women's clothing, as well as statements he made in support of the Black Lives Matter movement back in 2020. On the left, similarly, much has been made of the 40-year-old's writings on social media, where he voiced support for former President Donald Trump, former Fox News personality Tucker Carlson, and the Second Amendment. If you ask us, though, these contradictions show that Carricker, in fact, had no coherent political ideology, and that his lengthy documented struggle with mental health issues probably offers a much better insight into the violence. According to those that knew the 40-year-old, prior to the attack, he was in the midst of a mental breakdown. His roommate claims that he began wearing a bulletproof vest regularly around their house, would quote Bible passages, and spoke of evil spirits that he believed might be following him. In the lead-up to the shooting, he reportedly became obsessed with the idea of vigilante justice, believing that he needed to assist the police, and began conducting patrols of his neighborhood. At the time of his arrest this week, Carricker was also reportedly in possession of a police scanner. At the time of this recording, the 40-year-old remains in custody and is said to be undergoing a mental health evaluation. He is facing numerous charges, including multiple counts of murder, attempted murder, aggravated assault, and weapons violations. Before we wrap up, we'd like to take a second to give a huge shout out to everyone who has made it this far into the video. Seriously, thank you so much for watching. If you found today's upload interesting and informative, we'd be honored if you'd consider liking and subscribing, as well as hitting the notification bell and selecting all notifications to stay up to date with our latest releases. If you're looking for additional ways to help support the channel, we'd love to have you join us over on Patreon. Patrons get ad-free and early access to all of our content, as well as 4 additional stories per week for each of our Crimes of the Week and Crimes of the Week International videos. You can learn more at patreon.com/crimezone, where you'll also find some of the fine folks whose names are currently on screen. All that being said, we understand that not everyone has the means to support financially, and that's totally okay. We appreciate every like, sub, share, and comment that you send our way. Once again, thanks so much everyone, and take care.